to him. And Paul's like, you know what?
I'm getting irritated.
Like she wasn't saying anything bad.
Right. That I never understood.
Right. It was kind of like, oh, look, here they are. Here they are. You know, and just drawing all this attention to him in a way that Paul is like, this is not what God would want, nor is it what I want. And he knew that this spirit was not one of someone just being happy or whatever or good. It was like, you know what? You need to get up on out of here. That's what he did too. And he cast it out. He did. And you hear a lot about familiar spirits, too, which the Latin word, actually, familiar, means household servant. But in a supernatural aspect, that would be, the house would be our body. Yeah. So these unclean spirits are inhabiting us, leading us, which is basically a demon. Well, they need to do that because they need, they've got their realm, but they've got the only way, we're a physical realm. Right. We live in a physical realm. And God lives in a spiritual realm, and demons and angels and all that live in a spiritual realm. So to communicate with us, they're either going to communicate with us spiritually, or they need to come into our realm. But you know what's also sort of funny? Is the Roman Catholic Church, the term familiar spirit, is a person rendering certain services in a pope or bishop's household. So I'm thinking, maybe you guys should change that name. Change that title. I thought that was sort of weird. So... but the Bible does talk about familiar spirits, and God forbids being involved with them because they taint and decay our soul, which Nostradamus himself brought up. He knew that. Anyone who acts as a liaison for a dead or evil spirit, liaison, they're going to interact with demons, and those demons' job is to convince that they are familiar and that they're obeying the person or working for the person, and that they can be trusted. And believed, and it's not. They can't. So they give you, like you said, a little bit of truth. And then they crush you on a little bit of truth, and they crush. So you're like up and down, and that's just not the way it should work. It's like a yo-yo. It's not feeling good, man. I tell you. No. So ways that people invoke that would be like ancient wording and rituals, divination, mystical mediation, visualization, verbalization, necromancy, witchcraft, and even mind-altering drugs. What did I say, jugs? Jugs. Mind-altering jugs. Would that be like a large-breasted woman? Mind-altering. Them triple Fs. That's one way. But next to elaborate scams, there are genuine supernatural abilities. Like the government has a division to train those to show sensitivity and use them. And then there's Berkeley Psychic Institute in California. And then there's a Psychic Readers Association. They actually recruit psychic. On my way to Cali, yo man, I don't think so. They recruit psychic applicants to train them in different techniques, maybe to rap too. Yeah. But they to tap into psychic abilities. My lips moist. Yeah. And develop their psychic skills. It was sort of neat. There was an FBI agent, and he said instead of shoveling it away, psychic abilities he's talking about. And saying that there's nothing to it, which is a cop-out, we should say, how does it work, and what's the key to understanding this? I don't think you should shut the door. There's positives in a lot of different things, and just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it can't be used. And I do believe that people with these abilities have helped. Well, we've been called to it once ourselves, but have helped find, or at least help guide law enforcement and different things into the right area to, finish a case up. Yeah. So. And like you said, we've done God's given abilities, and we may all have these abilities and don't have the ability to tap into it or the knowledge of knowing how to do it. Definitely. Because I myself, I find myself often flying. In your dreams. Mm-hmm. No. Oh, I do. The only thing that's flying right now in this room is your ego. That's it. Whoa, that hurts. It doesn't hurt. It does hurt. It does? Yes, inside. Inside? Of where you're scarred? Yes. See? Right. I know this. I'm a spiritual counselor. They also have dog whisperers. Yeah, that's funny. Remember that TV show, My Cat from Hell? I think that was like a psychic for cats. What is that? That's a dog whispering. No, a dog whisperer. Not a dog whispering. Oh my God. It just... is that what they mean? No. No, a psychic for dogs to find out what's wrong with them. What's troubling them. It's like they're dogs. If you have a certain type of dog... I don't know why he can sit at the table every night and eat all that food. Why can't I? He's saying he really likes peanut butter. He does like peanut butter. Yeah, that 99% of the dogs out there. Oh, Lord. They also have that TV show, The Long Island Medium. She's very, very popular. And even the government funds programs. There's a program called Stargate. And they examine
we all
individual...
know about Stargates, don't we?
They examine individual powers of remote viewing. Not that kind of stuff. It's so strange. And the Bible calls them seers. Like with me and my abilities, my mom had the day that she was predicting earthquakes when she went into labor with me, which were accurate. And then I was like 5, and I was predicting earthquakes. It's all in my book. I'm not going to get into it. But I always just knew things, and I didn't have to seek it out.
Well, wasn't that the big thing with that earthquake? I remember with you was that there was no. The prediction is because there was absolutely no sign of anything happening, and then it.
Well, that was in the 70s, so yeah, they didn't have the stuff that they do now.
And you were like, didn't.
Well, no, my mom went into labor, and while she was in labor, like, they took a long time, like a day and a half or whatever. And the day that she went into labor, she was, like, in her bed by herself or whatever, and she said the room started shaking, and she thought we were in California. She thought they were having an earthquake. And she, like, was screaming, and they thought she fell asleep. And, you know, when you fall asleep and you wake up and you jerk.
Sure.
So they thought that happened to her. And she's like, no, I was awake. The room was shaking, and it ended up that right at that moment in L.A., and we were north of L.A., they had an earthquake. I think it was L.A. I might have my
Sounds
things.
like an
but then
earth-shattering experience.
And then the day that I was born, she was on the toilet, and the toilet was shaking, and she thought that there was another earthquake. It was the next morning. And
obviously, somebody had your meatloaf.
That's terrible. Well, she ended up calling in the nurses again, and they were like, no. And it was like China had...
Oh.
I think it was China.
So she was almost like more of like a...
But
feeling like an empath ability to feel...
Well, that's an earthquake, not people, though.
Well, I know, but she was feeling an earthquake that didn't exist there.
And then when
she didn't just say, there's one coming. She's like,
it's here.
Oh, I feel one.
Yeah,
it's like,
it happened twice, I think it was. And I always get my stuff mixed up. But then with me, it happened when I was like 4 or 5, and I was on my deck coloring, and my whole deck started shaking, and I thought, we lived in California, so I thought we were having an earthquake, and I like ran in screaming, and it ended up, and I think that was the one that was in China, or the South Shetland Islands or something. So, and it was passed on to me, and that's how it all started, so...
Fascinating.
Yeah, and those dates are, I mean, you'll see that the day I was born there was an earthquake. Pretty interesting. So with that stuff, that's not being a prophet. That's sort of, like you said, maybe like a borderline empath or whatever. But with the Bible, the prophets, like we said, had visions and dreams and audible voices. We don't have to use the aid of things. God will just speak to us. So we don't have to worry if it's bad or if it's true because we know, right?
Right. Right. Well, God created all things. He is spiritual and he is supernatural. For Samuel, King Saul goes to see the witch of Endor, so that she can bring back the prophet Samuel. A familiar spirit comes, but is it Samuel? Only says Saul perceives that it was Samuel. Now, 1 John says to test the spirit, so you can find out. So Samuel feels that. Or Saul felt it was Samuel, but is it?
Yeah, because she wasn't a godly person. She was considered a witch because of other stuff she was practicing. So we don't know if it really was. The Bible isn't clear. It just says, they viewed it as him. So we don't know. And
not to mention, this was going a little bit above and beyond those things that, because God had commanded Saul to get all the witches out of that city, they're gone. And then as time goes by, he's like, wow, I could really use a witch right now. Let's go get a famous one. We'll go back to town and get this one. And it's like, okay, now, do you really think this is going to work in a positive way for you?
Yeah, and we know that he ends up dying, the king, because he wasn't supposed to do that. So I don't believe it was the prophet, because I believe that it was, because when you know God, you rest in peace. You can't be just brought up every time someone decides to use a Ouija board.
God's not going to say, yeah, you can go wake this spirit up. He's like, you ain't waking up a spirit that I laid down.
So you got the fake people, you got the phonies, you got the psychics.
Phony baloney.
The phony balonies. So always test the spirits.
Test them.
Yep. Do your research.
Test.
You know.
What is 15 divided by 3?
Oh, jeez. Okay, so that's it for tonight. We're live every Friday night. But
I'm live every Friday night. We've been over this.
You can listen and download anytime.
Anytime.
Spreaker,
any place, anywhere.
Spreaker.com or iTunes.
iTunes.
If you follow us on Spreaker, you'll get notifications when we broadcast live.
I'll call you personally.
No, you won't. You'll also follow us on Twitter for our little paratweets and info on upcoming shows.
Paratweets.
Yeah, paratweets. Get it? Parakeet? Paratweet? I made that up.
Paratweets.
My paratweets.
I like that.
Thank you.
Paratweets.
Paratweet. Hashtag paratweet. At TSR Parapod. If you're on Facebook, you can head over to our Facebook page, Talk Supernatural Radio. We post pics and links pertaining to current episodes. And we also do upcoming episodes, which we don't know what we're going to do next week. I'm not sure yet. We haven't thought about it, so I guess...
I'm thinking about it.
You're thinking about it right now?
Yeah, I'm thinking about what we should do next week. What do you want to do?
You keep thinking about it.
What do you people? What does the people want?
Email us. TalkSupernatural@gmail.com.
Well, let's come up with something we haven't already done.
TalkSupernatural@gmail.com.
Talk Supernatural.
Well, if you're talking, how can they hear?
Because they're sidekicks.
They're not sidekicks.
They already know about TalkSupernatural@gmail.com.
What if it's a first-time listener? How would they know?
They know.
Uh-huh.
Especially if they're from Canada, yeah.
You guys have any ideas for us? Shoot them out, and, maybe we can use something.
I don't want to get shot.
Thanks for listening.
You get shot. I'm not getting shot.
This world's a tortured place to be. So many things to torment me. And as I stumble down this road, it takes a toll. I need an intervention. But I can see it coming. Some things just can't be explained.
And that's all, folks.